G'day everyone, we are counting down the top 10 grand finals of the AFL era, 1990 to the present day. We're up to number 6 on the list and it is a cracker. Certainly one of the most romantic premierships ever won, but I think a real epic grand final in its own right. I'm talking of course about the Western Bulldogs triumph in 2016 over Sydney, the Bulldogs' first premiership for 62 years and only the second in their history. And an incredible September the Bulldogs turned on this year. Finished 7th on the ladder, but importantly, a 7th with 15 victories, certainly the most by any side finishing that low on the ladder previously, and only 2 wins behind the top team on the ladder, which indeed was the Sydney Swans. The Swans didn't do it easy to get to the grand final themselves. They were surprise losers to GWS in a qualifying final, rebounded to beat Adelaide and then stunned Geelong in the preliminary final to get to the big day. The Bulldogs, well, they had to win a final on the road in Perth, knocked over West Coast, came back to the MCG and knocked over the reigning premier Hawthorn to get to the preliminary final and then won an absolutely nail-biting final against GWS in Sydney to get to the grand final. An incredible effort in itself, but they still had one shot left in the locker and boy did they fire it. This was a classic game, certainly a tight start, not a high scoring opening term, both sides having about equal amounts of play. Bulldogs generating plenty of scoring opportunities but not really capitalising until late in the quarter. It was Sydney who hit the scoreboard first, but the Bulldogs had evened that up thanks to Zane Cordy and actually hit the front at quarter time, going to the first change with a narrow 4-point lead. The second term, I reckon, is one of the best quarters of grand final football I've seen. 11 goals kicked in an absolutely blistering display by both teams. And pretty symbolic, I think, of a game in which the lead changed hand 5 times. That's a lot in a grand final. 11 goals, like I said, in that second quarter. It really went goal for goal. The Bulldogs took control of proceedings early, kicked 3 of the first 4 goals of the quarter. Tom Boyd, who was already playing a pretty good game up forward and in the ruck, he weighed in with 1. Tory Dixon bobbed up with his second. He was proving a vital part of the Bulldogs' effort up forward. And Liam Pickham, when he snapped one, the crowd erupted. Bulldogs had a handy lead at that point, but the Swans, never to be denied, they came surging back with 4 unanswered goals. Josh Kennedy, absolutely outstanding in the second quarter. In fact, he went to half-time having had already 17 disposals and 2 goals in a fantastic midfield game. Tom Mitchell also very busy for the Swans. And so it was Sydney leading by 2 points at the long break. Things tightened up again in terms of the scoreboard in the third term as the tension really began to grip not only the crowd but the players out there as well. The stakes obviously so high. It was pretty much goal for goal again. Tory Dixon kicked his 3rd goal of the game. Clay Smith kicked 1. And it was just about even Stevens at the last change. The Bulldogs leading by just 4 points as the final term began. Sydney certainly weren't blessed by good fortune in this game. I know a lot of Sydney people feel like they got the rough end of the deal in terms of the umpiring. The free kick count this day, for what it's worth, was 20-8 to the Bulldogs. So the Swans certainly finding it hard to win a free kick. They also, crucially, in the first minute of the last quarter, lost Dan Hannebery, a crucial midfield link, with a serious knee injury. Buddy Franklin had already been playing injured, so he wasn't necessarily playing up to his full capabilities either. Nevertheless, the Swans continued to hang in there, and when Buddy actually bobbed up to kick a goal, they were within a kick of regaining the lead. You just felt, though, that the Bulldogs were starting to get on top again in general play. There was a few false starts. Jason Johannesson certainly kicked one which was overruled via the video review, and that could have been a crucial decision in the outcome. The Swans still hanging in there, though, just 1 point the difference when George Hewitt kicked their second goal of the quarter with about 10 minutes remaining. It was there though, the Bulldogs spotted their opportunity. It was now or never time, and they went for broke. Some great play by them in the finish. Of course, a decisive moment when Dale Morris planted a fantastic tackle on Buddy Franklin. The ball fell loose to Tom Boyd, and inside the centre square, he let go with one of the biggest roosts in grand final history, which just went on, bounced through the goals to increase their lead to 15 points. Just prior to that, there'd been an unbelievable bit of play in the forward pocket with Shane Biggs, one of the unsung heroes of this premiership win, getting involved 4 times in a passage of play in the forward pocket, the ball eventually spilling free to Liam Picken, who gave the Doggies a bit of breathing space. Boyd made it a bit more comfortable, and when Picken sealed the deal, strolling into an open goal to make it 21 points of difference, the gig was up and the Bulldogs were destined to win that long-awaited premiership. It was an amazingly emotional afternoon, not just for Doggies fans, but I think for everyone that loves a good football romance. And the Swans, whilst they couldn't have been happy with the umpiring and certainly not the result, they had played their part in a suitably epic game of footy. Let's have a look at the details. You see there the Bulldogs narrowly in front at the first break. That amazing second quarter with 11 goals kicked, 5 coming to the Bulldogs and 6 to the Swans. Certainly their strongest period of the game. And Josh Kennedy, like I said, outstanding for them in the second quarter. Tightened up in the third term, 2-1 the Bulldogs' way. And then 4-4 as they surged to that long-awaited flag. Sydney only able to add the 2 goals in the last quarter. Unfortunately, carrying some injuries to the finish line. Dan Hannabury's absence in that final 25 minutes or so, absolutely critical. The goal kickers, 3 goals to Liam Picken. He was outstanding and just a terrific player the whole final series in 2016. 3 to Boyd, certainly the highlight of his unfortunately pretty short-lived AFL career. And a valuable game from Tory Dixon, who just quietly chipped in with 3 goals as well. For the Swans, 3 to Kennedy, 2 to Tom Mitchell, who was prolific as ever. He ended up with 26 disposals. Josh Kennedy with 34. And singles for the Swans to Hewitt, Rowan, Franklin, Parker and Smith. A 22-point win to the Bulldogs, delivering their second only AFL premiership. Emotional scenes on the ground after the game, of course. Injured skipper Robert Murphy, Bob Murphy, much loved by the football public, invited up on stage by his coach, Luke Beveridge, who very kindly draped his medal around Murphy's neck. There weren't many people there that weren't moved to tears or at least near tears by the sight of that. It was a wonderful gesture and a fitting way for the Bulldogs to celebrate that long-awaited flag. So there you have it. That is number 6 in my countdown of the top 10 grand finals of the AFL era. I'll see you back here soon for number 5.